She was the first to call the blue wave back in 2018, almost to the exact seat count. She did it again when she predicted that Donald Trump would lose in 2020, accurately forecasting that he would retain Ohio and Florida, but lose out in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. And now she's back to gaze into the crystal ball of 2022. Who is she? She is Rachel Bitecofer, election forecaster and editor of The Cycle. Rachel, so great to see you. Thanks for coming to the Sunday show.
I'm so happy to be here, and it's on Mother's Day, so happy Mom's Day to both of our moms, and of course, your wonderful Aunt Gloria.
Yeah, yes. Thank you very much. All right, we got a lot to talk about. You just heard Congressman Ami Bera. He is the person who's in charge of the Incumbent Protection Program. I'm hoping you heard what he had to say. What are the Democrats' chances of hanging on to the majority in the House from where we sit right now today at this very moment, 10:30, 45 seconds?
Well, they're wretched. And, in the congressman's defense, in official roles like that, you always have to project an air of confidence. Even if you're polling 10 points down in election days next week, you're supposed to say things are going to be great, right? So he's constrained. But let me tell you why they're the most wretched. We're running into a redistricting reapportionment process. And as well, everyone understands, red seats gained more in the census than blue states. Blue states lost critical seats in California, New York, but all the states do redistricting. And everywhere that the Republican Party holds control right now, they intend to bring the hammer down on their own congressional districts. So, for example, two-seat pickup in Texas probably is going to translate to a 4-seat net gain just out of that redistrict in Texas.
Wow.
Because they are ruthless, right? And so, not to discount what the congressman is saying, it's certainly true that you do want to credit claim extensively, right? In terms of how you market this party for the 2022 midterms. The fact that Biden is popular right now, especially in these swing districts, is a good sign, but it's not enough because, in the 18 midterms, part of what fueled my entire forecast for both cycles was this massive turnout participation surge. And that came from increased participation primarily on the left, although the Republicans were able to tap into fear so effectively, they also increased, right? So we know their turnout is going to be incredible in 2022. And that question is, can Democrats get to the point where they understand hope, credit, achievement, empathy? Those things have to be a part of your message, but they cannot be the only part. You must make the left side of the electorate, which includes left-leaning independents, deeply uncomfortable with the future of the country and make 2022 a referendum on the Republican Party, on the return of Trump.
Okay, so then, Rachel, everything that you just said, I get. And yet I am sure there are people who are watching and they're saying, yeah, we hear you, but in a majority of the states in the country, these legislatures are proposing bills, passing bills, governors like Governor DeSantis in Florida signing bills that are really meant to suppress the vote. Is it possible for Democrats to come out in such numbers that they are able to swamp those efforts to basically keep Republicans in power or to get Republicans into seats that Democrats have now?
Well, that's the perfect question, Jonathan, because the fact is that, yes, actually, even with these restrictions, the numbers are there. The strategy is not, right? So this rosy picture of how the Democrats did, and I mean, frankly, even in 2018, because they did not do what the GOP does in similar circumstances and frame their entire election message as a referendum, right? A referendum effect to drive up turnout. They underperformed in 18. I mean, there were seats they left on the table in that cycle, in both of the Virginia cycles, 2017 and 2019. And then, of course, the 2020 cycle, right? Which you cannot point to and say that was a success, right? Biden barely squeaked it out. He barely squeaked it out because luckily for him, there were field operations staged by the state party chairs of Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Georgia to make up for the party's major strategic blunder of suspending field nationally in a cycle. Of course, you don't want to run field in a pandemic, right? But the Republicans ran registration and field in the pandemic, and that left the Democrats really at a strategic disadvantage. That was one of the main mistakes that they made.
So Rachel, given what you just said, Congressman Bera said that was one of the things that is part of their plan, which is to, field operation and everything. Did that give you hope that the Democrats actually do have a strategy?
It does, but my hope really lies on how successfully organizations like my own and others are able to get them to understand how to perform messaging in an environment that's not the 1990s. We don't have a lot of mixed ideological composition within these two parties. We have liberal Democrats, conservative Republicans, and we have hyperpartisanship, which really prevents people, even those leaning independents, from voting for somebody they don't agree with, right? Republicans have figured out to make a politics about branding, right? So they don't run on records or policies. They run on brand, and they run specifically on destroying the Democratic brand. So really what Democrats need is to marry field, like Stacey Abrams showed them in Georgia, with messaging that juices turnout.
Rachel, you have to give me a yes or no answer because we're out of time, but will Democrats, from where you sit right now, retain control of the Senate in 2022?
Senate is much better.
Okay, I'm going to have you back. I'm going to have you back another Sunday to talk more fully about the Senate. Rachel Bitecofer, thank you very much for coming to the Sunday Show.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.